People ask me all the time, are your books secretly about you? And today I want to take the time to answer that question because this comes up quite a lot, especially from people who know me in real life and they'll read my books and suddenly they're like, wait, is this about you? So let me break it down. So far, I've published I Love You So Much, which is a short domestic thriller. The Alvarez Girls, a military thriller novella, Mrs. Franchy's Evil Ring, a middle grade realistic fiction book. And now I'm working on The Ordinary Bruja, which is book one of a trilogy titled Las Cerradoras, The Closers. So by the time I finish that series, I would have 8 books published since graduating with an MFA in creative writing. When people who've known me forever, more often than not, they know me outside of the writing circles that I'm part of. Then when they go further and they read my books or they find out the number of things I've published, because I've also collaborated on anthologies, they're shocked by knowing that I've published that, even though I have a whole day job and they know me from another part of my life. But also after reading either one book or all of them or some of them, they look at me, they're like, Joa, what happened to you? You know? And I see it in their eyes, in their posture, in the way that they're looking at me, that they're feeling some sort of pity. But let me say this, please don't do that. That is not why I write. And I don't care to carry that or accept that emotion from other people. So you can keep that. But here's the truth. Every book I write has a seed of truth inside it, a moment, a memory, an emotion that's real to me. Then what I do is I build a whole fictional world around it. In creative writing, this approach is often called writing from the seed of truth. It means taking a real experience, even a small one, and using it as the foundation for an imagined story. Another term that you may have heard, or another term that is used to describe what I do, is emotional truth writing. And that's when the events on the page may be fictional, but the feelings such as fear, grief, love, regret are drawn directly from the writer's lived experience. And readers connect because the emotions are authentic, even if the plot is invented. In Mrs. Franchy's Evil Ring, I'll give you this example. Readers picked up on a scene where the narrator breaks down crying. Well, the character breaks down crying, and the narrator acts it out. And they were right to feel those big emotions, and they were right to hone in on that particular scene because that moment specifically came straight out of my own life. As a kid, I left the Dominican Republic to live with my dad and stepmom in the US, a woman that I never met before. So, as a child, I believe I was 8 or 9 years old, which is the same age that I gave Isla in Mrs. Franchy's Evil Ring. I had dread and anxiety, fear, and of course, a bias about stepmothers being wicked. And later, as an adult, you turn all of that around. And then I became a stepmom myself. So that mix of experiences is what gave Mrs. Franchy's Evil Ring that emotional truth, even if the story itself is completely fiction. Sometimes, though, I immortalize my loved ones. My dog, John, who passed away, lives on in Mrs. Franchy's Evil Rings. That was my way of keeping him close and keeping him alive essentially forever. Now, with the ordinary bruja, the seed of truth comes from assimilation, from growing up in the United States and feeling the pressure inside and outside of my community. That pressure that to be good meant to be white. That's something many of us in the Latine diaspora carry, and it's painful, it's toxic, it's pervasive, and it robs us of our culture. Writing about that isn't just fiction, it's me grappling with guilt, fear, and eventually the self acceptance that I had to work really hard at getting at achieving. So when people ask, are your books real? Here's my answer: the stories are completely fiction, super fiction. The characters are made up. But the emotions, though, the fear, the grief, the love, the doubt, the anger, those are very, very real. And that's why they hit hard, because I felt them, I lived them, and now I share them through story. For me, writing is my therapy, my calling, and my way of connecting with others who felt those same universal emotions.